Hello, testing, testing. This is Raymond Lam of Buddhist Global, and actually, this is one of our first live Zoom streams. And due to obvious developments like the COVID-19 pandemic, many outlets, not just in religion journalism, but in mainstream journalism, have resorted to methods like these, using Zoom often, to interview and discuss, hold panels. And, in some ways, I find this quite a novel innovation. It's driven by necessity due to social distancing and other various ways to stay at home and stay safe during the COVID-19 pandemic. But I think it's made life a bit simpler for many reasons. Now people have gotten used to hosting interviews in their own home or in their office. And live studios almost seem passé. I don't know if people are so keen on, dressing up and going to a live studio to do something that they probably could have done at home over a Zoom call, a stream with their mobile phone or with their computer or with their tablet. So it's quite interesting. We obviously hope to keep up with the rest of the world in terms of the tech that's developing around journalism, and we've been forced to adapt as well. So with that little preamble aside, we're very excited to host this live stream interview for the very first time. And our first guest is a good friend of mine. He's a filmmaker, a director. He's currently based in Japan, but spends much of his time in the United States. Everyone, please welcome Yujiro Seki. It's my absolute pleasure to welcome him to this interview. And tonight we're going to discuss his film, Carving the Divine, which he has shown to many audiences around the world, and he's received a lot of praise, including from many Buddhist institutions and also non-religious, purely film institutes. I'm going to let Yujiro talk soon, but I think it's important to put into context how few films are made of this topic. Carving the Divine is about a guild, so to speak, of professional woodcarvers, and they carve specifically Buddhist sculptures for many different clients, for temples, for monks, and for private shrines. The whole thing, the whole show. So very few people have the opportunity to actually get a glimpse into this world. And I was lucky enough to watch the full version of the film, and I was just absolutely fascinated by it. And since then, Yujiro has actually done 2 interviews with us, and we've also published a review of the film itself. So you can check that out at our website, www.buddhiststore.net. But in the meantime, please, I'd like to welcome Yujiro. Thank you for joining me tonight. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Raymond, for having me here. Appreciate it.
Great. Well, let me first ask you, this is a unique topic, and it takes special inspiration to set out and devote so much time to create a work of art like this. So as I recall, you've told me off camera that the film actually started off with as a fairly almost on a casual whim, but it became something much more serious along the way. Talk to me a little bit about that. Talk to me about the journey.
The journey. Journey was ever since that I was very little. My father was a Buddhist furniture maker, outdoor maker. In Japanese, we say Butsudan. So he's a Butsudan maker. And I was surrounded by Buddhist objects ever since I was little. But when I was little, I didn't think anything of it because it was just a family business. And my father took me to temples, and I had opportunity to see many of beautiful art. And at the time, I didn't think it was art. It was just things laying around, or just there. So
Yeah.
nothing special. And when I was in high school, I ran into filmmaking. I made a detective movie with my friends at the time, my actor friends. I was doing a theater when I was in high school. And I just fell in love with the process. So this creating out of nothing. And it was a beautiful, beautiful experience. So I was be able to show the film to the entire school, and I wanted to do it as a career. So that's why I decided to go to the United States and study cinema in the United States. I was very naive back then as a high school student. So if you want to study cinema, you go to United States. So a few years I only study English, and finally I got into the university, and I finished my education there, and I got like a degree, cinema degree in the United States. So I was be able to get a job in Los Angeles. I was working in a design company, and I made videos for business. So it was okay. I learned a lot of things. I gained a lot of experiences, and we had a TV show. I had the opportunity to do interviews with many people from design industry. It was great, but it was not really something that I wanted to do. To some extent, maybe I was lying to myself by doing things just to get a paycheck. So after finishing after I got my green card, I just decided to go to Japan and devote myself to make something. I just wanted to make something at least once in my life.
Right.
Maybe after that, I can just have a video as a job. But it was not. I didn't start to going into a film industry to make videos for business. So I wanted to do something that inspires people. So I had an opportunity to see Japan from outside because when I was in Japan, I was just Japanese, but I didn't think that I was Japanese. But when you travel or when you live in a different country, you realize you are actually Japanese. It sounds ridiculous, but
exactly, yeah.
It's really hard to know, especially a country like Japan, where not many people from different countries interact with each other like United States, for example. Japan is changing now, but back then, it was no melting pot, and talking to foreigners were kind of scary. And we have a word like gaijin. It's kind of discriminatory word to say he's not Japanese. He's from
he's not in. Yeah, he's not in.
Yeah. So, I found 1,400-year-old Buddhist sculptors of Japan a very interesting subject because I was be able to see Japan from outside for the first time in my life, and I realized the environment that I grew up in was somewhat special, somewhat unique. So if I was to devote next few years making documentary, I wanted to do something meaningful. I didn't want to make another recyclable, I don't want to say trash, but recyclable movie that, every year new stuff comes out, and it's an extension of the same thing as the previous year. or maybe modification. So, yeah, that was the motivation to start the documentary, but I didn't think it was to take this long. And also I didn't think this was a lot more than that I envisioned as far as how valuable this culture is. So I was just telling you the long story into a short format. It was not really short, but that's the best that I could do to it.
Oh no, it's fantastic. I wish we could hear more of that, and over time we'll probably have more subjects to discuss in separate conversations. But I think it was interesting how you said that you never realized how unique the environment that you grew up in was, and it wasn't until you started making the film that you appreciated the uniqueness, the sort of ancient heritage of this Butsudan, the tradition of wood carving, of Japanese Buddhist wood carving. And your film is groundbreaking because it's one of the first in the English language that actually shows the so-called gaijin.
Butsuzo. Butsudan is what my father makes a shrine.
Excuse me. Yeah, Butsudan as in shrine. Yes. Butsudan. My apologies. Butsuzo, right? So so talk a little bit about that. How your film is probably one of the first, if not the first, in actually communicating for mass audience this tradition of wood carving, and what you find about it is so special.
Well, everything about this is special. It's a 1,400-year-old Japanese tradition. That's like a very long time. It's really hard for us to imagine what this means. But for example, if you put it in a perspective, we all know what samurai is in the 21st century. People from different cultures, they know samurai. Yep. Samurai is Japanese ancient warrior, right?
Exactly.
So, this culture is has a lot more history than samurai. It's been in Japan more than samurai. Yes. That itself is pretty amazing. Secondly, I don't talk so much about it in the documentary, but each statue has a symbolism. Each statue has a history, and each statue has a meaning behind for Japanese people.
Yeah.
Yes. So this means these sculptures have been heart and soul for Japanese people for 1,400 years, whether people realize it or not. We take this for granted. You see those sculptures everywhere in Japan. Street, temples, somebody's house, and we just see it as it is. But
it's just there.
Yeah, each statue has so much history and meaning behind. So, to me, it's really weird in the 21st century where everything is available on internet. Yet, when you want to look something up on internet about this culture, Butsuzo, busshi are the people who make these sculptures, you don't find that much information. And the people who possess the information about this type of things are the people who work in a museum, who work in universities. The information is not generally available for a general public. But right. I find it interesting is this art is the art for people. So in any case, after started working on it, I've realized this has so many layers. This culture has so many layers, and my documentary itself, 98 minutes long documentary, cannot convey everything about what this culture has to offer. But I believe by seeing the people who make this art and get the taste of this art and culture, this will open up. More people will be interested. More people even will be interested in learning Buddhism too. Buddhism is not only about the Siddhartha Gautama. It's not only about the Theravada, but many variations.
Absolutely.
And that what makes Buddhism very interesting and also challenging. But I just think I hope this documentary will open up the conversation for the people. So that's what I'm hoping. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic, and it's also interesting that you mentioned about how people take this for granted, and it's really even though the Buddhist sculptures are meant for the people and they are used by everyday people across Japan, everyone, like many different families use Buddhist sculptures. You see Buddhist sculptures all the time at temples or shrines and whatnot. So one thing that we've been discussing, you and me, a lot is the balance between what you could call fine art and scholarship, right? With mass awareness, mass knowledge of such said fine art. You said so yourself. These sculptures are very complex. They're not easy to understand without good explanations of their history, of their heritage, and of their religious symbolism. Talk to me a little bit about how you strike that balance in your film and in your, by the way, also you host a blog and you've got Carving the Divine TV on YouTube. So it's across the board. You have a duty, in a sense, to sort of strike that balance between knowledgeability and eloquence in delivering information, but also being able to make it relatable.
Interesting. That has been quite a challenge for me. When I finish this film, naively enough, I thought, wow, I've done it. I made something that nobody has ever done it before. And I was so excited, and I was gonna win all the awards and go to Sundance film festivals and all this, right?
We've talked about Sundance.
Yeah. And unfortunately, the first festival that I tried to enter, Sundance Film Festival, rejected Carving the Divine. And I was but I was very disappointed. I was very sad about it, And later found out my film is not really what they're looking for. So, it's not only about the quality of the film, but, I think they have a certain kind of film that they are looking for. And my film, to me, it was too unique. People are used to watch something that is extension to something that they already seen. So if environmental film is popular, they'll choose environmental film. If LGBTQ film is popular, they'll choose LGBTQ film. It's not like those films are not important. They are very important. But at the same time, as festivals, they are less reluctant to take a chance to choose something that they never seen before. So
yes,
this is one of my explanations. But more importantly, I was disappointed, but I realized the fact that nobody else knows about this art. If nobody knows about it, how can I tell everybody this is a good art? This is a good, one of the greatest Japanese cultures.
Yes,
but nobody knows about it. So I had to come up with some strategy to let people know why this matters. So this is the reasons why I started doing the Carving the Divine TV. So Carving the Divine TV is a YouTube show that shows basic concept of Buddhism and the history of Buddhism. So it's very simple, you know. I mean, a regular episode is about 5 to 10 minutes long. And we talk about one of the most challenging subject that, you know, every scholars and practitioners discusses in their lifetime. But we talk about it in 5 to 10 minutes. I understand it's an impossible task. So, you know, we've done like a 33 episode, 34 episode of the Carving the Divine TV regular episode, which basically talks about the Buddhism from India, starting from India to Japan, who travel super fast. So that people can get that general idea of Buddhism.
Yes.
So, you know, often I get criticized. This is not deep enough. This is not profound enough. But you know what? As far as regular people go, who don't know anything about Buddhism, especially people who grew up in a Western religious tradition, you know, to tell people talking about Buddhism is just, and comparing that with Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, is comparing apple and orange. You know?
Exactly.
Yes, right. Yes. So you know, people get a basic idea. They don't need to be a Buddhist. You know, if they just want to be a cool in the cocktail party, that's fine. But you can get some idea of what Buddhism is. You know, overall picture. Maybe it's not sufficient, but the point is to get people interested. Point is to open the door for people, so that some people want to probably learn more. So I have another particular show within the show. It's called Practitioners Episode. So
Practitioners Episode, yeah.
Practitioners Episode, I actually invite actual practitioners of each, some of the sets of the Buddhism that I talked about in the show, and even go deep into the subject, because 5 to 10 minutes is not deep enough. So some people want to have a more. Even that, it's not deep enough. But after you watching the regular episode and this, you know, watch the practitioners episode, you're ready to go. You're ready to go out in the world and learn about Buddhism, and you probably can read difficult articles and you can figure out what's going on. But if you don't have that, it is very difficult to just read the difficult article for the first time, you know, Theravada, Mahayana, Vajrayana, whatever it is. It's just so difficult, you know. You probably you think that the Dalai Lama is a compassionate guy or something, you know. That's the only you get out of it, you know.
Yes, exactly.
So I'm going off the tangent a little bit, but the point is, by providing basic information about Buddhism, even like in Carving the Divine TV, I talk about the Buddhist statues as well. People can get the basic idea of the tradition, so that when they watch my documentary, they'll understand and appreciate it more. So, you know, I even have a blog. It's called Buddhist. So, you know, Buddhist is a blog about how to appreciate Buddhist sculptures. So, you know, with that kind of basic information under your belt, you know, you are ready to learn something new. And, you know, people can be more aware of the fact this culture actually matters. So, this is one thing. But you're asking me how am I going to balance that regular people versus academics, right?
Yes.
First, majority of the people who were interested in my documentary are those people, academics and museum people.
Right.
I don't want to turn those people away, by saying that, I'm only interested in getting regular people know about this art. I want to
Yes.
balance it.
Exactly.
The point is, those people study so much. Those people devote their lifetimes studying about the art and Buddhism. I have so much respect for those people. But at the same time, sometimes those people have a difficult time communicating why what they are studying is so important to regular folks.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as a result, maybe they can write paper and circulate it among themselves, and write a book, and their students read it for the term paper. But they have a difficult time, communicate with the regular people. So
absolutely.
What Carving the Divine does is, this is about not regular people, but craftsmen making art.
Yeah.
Even
exactly.
though you don't understand Buddhism, or you don't care about the Buddhism, or you don't care about the Buddhist art, you can understand the struggles that apprentices go through.
Yes, absolutely. This is so important.
And and also once they see the art in the documentary, even though you don't care about Buddhism, you understand why this art matters.
Yeah.
Because art speaks by itself.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's such an important point, as you said. This film is, even though Sundance might have said that this film is sort of in its own category, but it really transcends boundaries, as you said. Yes, some academics might watch it, but people, non-Buddhists watch it, Buddhists watch it, and importantly, I was just so interested when I was watching it to get a little glimpse into the life, the professional life of the busshi. And you captured that aspect of their working life in the guild very well. In the full film, you even shoot some of their private, not private, but sort of their family life, their personal life, and you show real people, real teachers, and real students working on these Buddhist sculptures. So I found that very interesting. And I also can sense how your film minimizes the perspective of the director and tries to give as much room as possible to the subjects. Is that right?
Absolutely. That's one of the reasons why it took so long to finish it. So as a filmmaker, I know all the gimmicks and tricks. I know that, I can think of how can I manipulate Raymond's mind, right? And, as a...
well, you can. It's very easy.
As an editor, I can do that. I can try to do that. But as an intelligent person, probably you can see through it. Oh, Yuji is trying to manipulate my mind, and he's trying, he's nice try, right? As a filmmaker, we all know the tricks. So, but as far as a regular audience goes, sometimes they don't know that, and they'll get influenced by it. So, it's not like, you cannot have your perspective. That's not what I'm saying. If you have an opinion, and if you want to change the world in a better way, you use the technique. I understand all this. But at the same time, the subject that I'm shooting, Buddhist sculptures of Japan and Buddhist sculptors of Japan, deserve a lot more than just giving my personal opinion. That's the thing. So when I had interviews shot, few interviews by apprentices, but most of them are not usable because they say what's right for them, right for the situation. So, for example, they say, oh, because of my master, I'm improving, or because without my master, I'm nothing. But it's just so what? It does not tell you the real story. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. They've prepared it. It's scripted.
Yes, yes. So in my documentary, I became a fly on the wall and tried to capture what's going on. And by seeing their actions and facial expressions and all this, you should be able to figure out what's going on. But more importantly, what I wanted to accomplish is I want you to go through your own journey. So everybody should have their own experience according to the life they went through. Yeah. So I could easily say, for example, when I was 15 years old, first time I met Master Saito, and just start a narrative like that. Easy. I can take put things together very easy, and I can put it out the world. But if I do that, it won't capture that authentic nature of film that I wanted to express. And just like a Buddhism, ultimately we go through our own journey.
Yes.
And whatever the path you want to choose, you choose your path.
Right.
So and sometimes the path is very difficult. So so maybe the film is sometimes very challenging to watch. But once you go through your own journey, you have a much more experience that will satisfy you than just me telling you how to think and what to think.
I think that's so important because by allowing the film and its subject some space to just be, right, and then people can project their own stories onto the subjects. It was so important because not enough people know about this field in Japanese Buddhism, and so if you come out with your own opinion, you could very well color everyone else's experience and everyone else's understanding of the whole topic, but you avoided that.
Yes, and ultimately, as a filmmaker, I want to be a hand. I want to guide you through the journey, but ultimately, you're the one who experienced your own nirvana, so to speak, right? Yeah. So, that's what I wanted to do, and of course, there's no impossible to not to have a subjectivity inside, because I'm the person who put it together. I'm gonna guide you through the journey, but at the same time, I want to minimize that as much as possible because what matters is your own journey. It's not mine.
Yes. Did you ever think, in terms of subjectivity, there would be a different scholars and different Buddhists would see the film in different ways? So the scholars, as you've said, I think you said that some of them don't see enough descriptions of the Buddhist iconography, right? The iconography is relatively played down in the film because there's too much, right? There's too much. If I keep on talking about Avalokiteshvara's symbolism or Manjushri's iconography, I could be there for hours. And you've got 90-something minutes at most, right? So you didn't do too much of that. But some people, I think, have said that you could have included more of that. So again, I would say, I would ask you, you now have this whole package of programs to try and help people gain a starter kit to understand Japanese Buddhism better. Do you think that is the right approach currently, as it is?
as far as carving the divine, or this whole package? Which one?
Yes.
Whole package.
Oh well, the whole package now is that you've got the blog, and you've also got Carving the Divine TV. So taken all together, it's almost like as if it's for us lay people as well as scholars. It's for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, I want more people to get to know about this culture. And I understand that, scholars, academics, museum people, they're amazing. I'm not denying that. Their knowledge is beyond comprehension. I don't deny that. And we need them. We need them so much. But at the same time, if we don't have a basic understanding of this subject, it doesn't matter if it's a profound understanding or very shallow understanding. If people don't know this culture exists, how can they appreciate them? That's my point.
Yeah.
So by seeing the people making beautiful art, people can relate to them.
Yeah.
By seeing apprentices going through such a difficult journey to be a master carver, they will understand. And they will get more interested in learning about the subject, and maybe they'll be more interested in learning about the symbolism. Yes, some people might think, oh, I want to know about the symbolism. But, if I included that, the film is going to be all over the place. We got to have a focus in 98 minutes. And, all the scholars and the museum people, they know about symbolism. What do they want about? What they haven't seen is the people in action. People actually doing this art. They haven't seen it.
I so appreciated that perspective. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And for me personally, in terms of my own experience watching the film, that's probably the most special part of it. To be able to see into the light. You've heard me bring this up in off camera all the time. To be able to peer into the lives and the journey of these young busshi, and you have several. I'm not going to spoil anything for our audience, but you have several so-called characters. They're real. They're very real, and they undergo training by the master, and it's so relatable. Anyone who's been to school, anyone who's tried to learn a discipline. It's not about even the wood carving per se, but it's about the whole relationship between master and student. It's the whole dynamic of trying to go on a path that is hard but has a lot of meaning. And I think as a filmmaker, you captured that perfectly. So as a final point, I wanted to just basically toss the ball to you and say, do you think you've achieved what you wanted to do when you set out to make the film?
I think a lot more than that I thought I could ever do. So I wasn't sure how this is going to turn out. To be honest with you, I really didn't know. I knew the subject was important, but I didn't know how this is going to turn out. So the reason why that I don't quit and start doing another project is I understand this project matters.
Absolutely.
So if I stop now, this is going to just be in the back of my hard drive or something. And
that would be so tragic. That would be so tragic if it was.
But many of the filmmakers, they do that, right? They make something and this, they think it's not going to work out, and they move on to another project. Yeah. So in some sense, we have a finite time on this planet, and my time will come. Tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, next week, next month, 50 years from now, I have no idea, but I'll go. And I find that this is my duty to finish this documentary and show it around the world. That's why.
Amazing.
That's why I keep doing what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, and I really do think that with time and patience, I think more and more people are becoming exposed to your work, thanks to your own hard work, and it's really opening people's eyes. It certainly opened mine, and made me much more aware of this tradition. And I'm so glad that we have this topic and your film on as a subject of coverage on our website. So I think we're almost out of time now, and but I'd like to take the opportunity to say to you, Yujiro, I really look forward to further conversations with you about Buddhist woodcarving, and perhaps at a later time we'll be able to talk more about your other side projects, not just carving the divine. I think that would be a very nice treat for our audience. What do you think?
That'll be wonderful. And thank you for having me here tonight. And also thank you for having me to write articles. I mean, I appreciate it so much.
It was our pleasure. Not just my pleasure, but also Nina's pleasure, who's our North American correspondent, and you've met personally. I think she was also really impressed with the film as well. So I think you're touching the hearts of people wherever the film goes. Just wanted to let you know that we really do appreciate it.
Thank you so much. The same here. The feeling is mutual.
Yeah, thank you so much, Yujiro. So I look forward to further conversations with you. And for those of you watching, don't forget to like this video, share it if you can, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And we'll also put a link to Yujiro's own channel at the bottom of our video description, so you can click there and explore Carving the Divine TV on his channel at his end. So thank you very much, Yujiro, for joining me this evening, and take care, and we'll speak to each other soon.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.